What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about if we'll get a Lost Records Bloom in Rage 2. I feel like for those that have beaten the first game, it's kind of the first thing on everybody's mind, which I've talked about here and there. I don't know if it's the greatest thing to have to rely on a second game for a lot of unanswered questions, but look, that's a big part of this, and I think there are some positives to build there, and we'll talk about that in this video, but just kind of want to go over surface level type things, okay? I do want to go over the ending. I do want to talk a little bit about spoiler type stuff, but I'm not going to go too deep into what the second game literally would be. I actually have a separate video with a special guest planned for that one. Okay, so stay tuned to the channel. But for this, okay, just like flat out, will we get what's the prediction, right? And you guys let me know, of course, in the comments. Now, I'll be flat out honest with you. I actually think the answer is yes. I do think we will get another game. I've made two different videos now, trying to look at available numbers and try to see how this thing is doing. Was this a foundationally solid enough game? I think the answer is yes. Okay. And did they build on it enough to make a sequel? The answer is yes. Did they leave questions unanswered to make a sequel? Absolutely yes, right? Maybe too many, actually, in my opinion, but they did, okay? So from the game perspective, this is actually rather easy and rather quick. Does the game need a second game, or does the game deserve even a second game? I think the answer is yes. And even my personal opinion of the quality of the game, do I want more? I legitimately do. I think, I personally want more Banishers Ghosts of New Eden, and I would kind of take that over it, but I want Don't Nod to build franchises. And honestly, we talk about their financials, and these are publicly available things. These aren't just me, making this stuff up. They're in a good amount of trouble, and that might actually be a nice way of saying it, right? So I want them to succeed. I want them to keep crafting stories, even if they're not necessarily even for me, or even I think they're fine but not great. I want more. Okay, so just try to level with you guys, right? It's like, okay, even though I didn't love this game, which I didn't, and I'll be honest about that, I want more. I want a second game. I think they can actually build upon the first game rather well. But, for everything we just said, right? Does the game need it, or did the game build to it? The answer is yes. You look at the ending of really, and okay, we're going to talk about the spoilers, right? Because let's kind of isolate specifically why. Well, of course, the epilogue, which originally, by the way, I thought you only get with the good ending, but that's not true. I believe you can get any ending in this game and still get the epilogue, where you will walk through the forest, you'll find Cat's, force ghost type situation, and you can enter the abyss, right? So I thought originally it was for only the good ending. I actually got the bad ending, and I still got that epilogue. So I feel like some articles maybe misled me online, but that very much directly sets on top of other things, right? Because you get the sense that there's definitely more going on, and there are a lot of unanswered questions of did Dylan actually send that box? I mean, quite a few specifics, so I don't think we have to get into all of them, but specifically with that ending, it's very clear this kind of supernatural ability of the abyss is beyond what we think it is. Or what the game shows, right? There's more to it than that. There's clearly time travel abilities here, and there's clearly more when it comes to Cat and Corey. There's just more to that story, and then especially literally Swan going back to the scene of the crime and continuing the story, right? She's gonna figure these things out, and maybe we would get answers to the abyss. Maybe you bring Cat back, maybe whatever ends up happening, you explore in a second game. So does the game do it all? Again, pretty easy and quick, yes. Does kind of the behind the scenes stuff, or the numbers, and does that set it up? And I think that's a lot more complicated, because again, game can be whatever it wants to be. Game can be good, bad, whatever. If the game is not if they don't think that the game can build and the game can make them money, it should be all about art, but sadly it's a gaming industry, and they do have to worry about financials and all that jazz. Again, Banishers Ghosts of New Eden is a phenomenal game that absolutely deserves to be a franchise too, and that's never going to happen. So you have to think about that as well. Now, from all the videos that I've made talking about the numbers, the publicly, available numbers, I'll just kind of double down on it. It seems to be doing really good, and actually I think it seemingly is improving every day on PlayStation. PlayStation really is that this is not like a console warrior, fanboy type thing. I don't play around with those games, but it really seems like PlayStation is the place that, because of PS Plus, yes, right, that's a huge part of it, but also I just feel like that's where the sales, that's where a lot of the revenue, and then also the deal with Sony for PS Plus in general, that's where that's going to come from. Again, to be also blatantly honest, ridiculous. The numbers on Steam are horrendous. They're very much in line with Banishers. They're worse than Double Exposure. They're worse than a lot of mid-sized games. Like, I just don't think this game is doing anything on Steam. Now, is that the platform of choice? It clearly is not, right? Seems like it's console. So from the numbers perspective, and then even what they say, again, that was another part of the video I made a few days ago. They say it's doing in line. Now, that doesn't mean it's doing amazing. I feel like if it was doing unreal numbers, they would almost gloat about it, right? Because you're trying to make a statement. You're trying to say, hey, we're back and better than ever. Look, this game is making more money than we thought we would. We have a real smash hit on our hands. They're not saying that, but also it's a little early, and you have to think to Alan Wake, think to the original Life is Strange. Like, some games take time, and maybe I didn't really express that all too well in the videos I've made. I want to give them that kind of benefit and just that fairness, where it's like, we're talking about the numbers right away, and they're not amazing. Okay, even on PlayStation, like, I wouldn't say this is selling like multi-million things on PlayStation, but like, is it supposed to? Is this something that they expect to build as the years go? And if that's the expectation, I think that's pretty reasonable. You look at Alan Wake. Alan Wake did not sell at launch. Alan Wake 2 spent the first 2 years of its life, a year and a half, right? And it just started making money right now. But it's a slow burn. That game is going to make money for a very long time, and they're not expecting that game to sell 10, 15 million units to make money, right? They're expecting Alan Wake to sell a couple million, and they're smart with their money. And that's what I hope Don't Nod, not to make it all about Alan Wake. That's what I'm hoping Don't Nod's able to do, right? Where they say, this is a franchise we believe in. It's going to be a slow burn. We expect it to do a couple million as the years go. And then we also want to double down. Like, we're looking at the franchises, and this is a franchise that we think we can make more than one game on. And if that's the plan, I think that should be the plan, and it probably is the plan, then we're all good. I think there's a very solid future for Lost Records Bloom. I truly believe that. Whether they do what would be called like Tape 3 or Tape 4 or Lost Records Bloom and Rage 2, whatever you want to call it. I think it almost needs to happen. I guess this is how I'll end the video, right? I would be pretty worried for Don't Nod as a company if they don't make another one of these. So let me completely turn the tables and almost make it like a dire situation, which, you know what? Again, honestly, it could be. They are in a bad spot, okay? Factually in a bad spot. They need a hit, and they need to start building franchises to have this money coming in. We know they're working, I think, on 2 other games right now, okay? Lost Records and then 2 other games. If they come out and say, you know what, we're moving on. The team exists still that made Lost Records, but they're moving on. They're making a brand new game. I probably would see that as a failure because it just seems so obvious. And even from what they've said, the directors of Lost Records, they want more. They literally want to make more of it. So if Don't Nod as a company announces that they're moving on, or they announce that the game just didn't do all that well, that's very bad. You know what I mean? So again, trying to almost reverse it where it's like, okay, well, what happens if there's not a second game? That would be a pretty big blunder, right? Because it seems like all signs are they want to make a second game and they want this to be their pioneer franchise. And if they don't do it, I'm going to assume it's because it failed. I'm going to assume it's because people actually just didn't buy it, right? And it's like, you don't want that, especially with Don't Nod in the situation that they're in. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.